Say hello to the bad guy.
Hey, yo.
It's my life in the box in front of me. Take it off in my arms, it's the soul of me. You walk by, ask to see me lay face down.
Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? Say hello to the bad guy. So this video is going to be a little bit different than what I've been doing lately. I kind of got away from the arcade-related content for really no particular reason. I've just been doing a lot of NES stuff lately, which has kind of just been what I've been into. But if you've seen my home arcade tour, which I think was the first video I ever put out back late last year, it desperately needs an update, which I'll get to eventually. You may have noticed something in there. Now, most of my collection consists of arcade 1-up products. There are two cabinets in there that stand out, and they're not an iArcade, and it's not from At Games. No, the two cabinets that I'm referring to are from a company called Big Games, who are pretty much the originator of the home arcade. I think these cabinets are from the mid-2000s, I want to say 2006, 2007. They released two cabinets. One was a Midway and another was Konami. And I just happened to get my hands on both of them. I fell into the Midway because a family member of mine who saw that I was building an arcade happened to stumble across one and asked if I wanted it. And after doing some research, learned there was another one, this Konami cabinet, which had a fantastic lineup of games. So I figured if you guys have seen those things, maybe you want to know a little bit more about them. And they're both relatively cheap. Like, you could probably get each one of them for under $300. So if you're looking to play games like Robotron or Sinistar or Castlevania or Blades of Steel or Contra, these things aren't bad. They're not bad at all. I mean, the construction quality of these things are pretty significant. They are fairly heavier than your standard arcade 1-up cabinet. The buttons and joysticks aren't the greatest, but they are CRT monitors, which are kind of cool to play on. Check out this video and see these cabinets for yourself, maybe a little up close and personal look at these things, and maybe you might be interested in them. So check it out. Alright guys, welcome to my arcade game room. I wanted to do something a little bit different. I know everybody, has all the arcade 1-up cabinets and the At Games and the iArcades, and I've watched a ton of home arcade videos, tours, and there's one thing that I own that I've never seen anybody have, and it's these two cabinets in particular. This Midway multicade and its brother over there, the Konami. And when I first started getting into the home arcade scene, I had bought Ninja Turtles, I think I had Star Wars, I had the original Mortal Kombat, which I've since upgraded now twice, and I may have had Outrun. I can't remember if I had Outrun or not, but my brother-in-law came to me and he said he found this thing on Facebook Marketplace. Somebody was selling it for $100. And I kind of at that point started thinking, okay, I may be looking to build a home arcade, so maybe I'll just take it, whatever, $100, I don't even know what it is, I'll take it. And he brought this thing, and it had a pretty damn good game lineup on it. I mean, you're looking at games like Robotron, Satan's Hollow, Sinistar, Defender 1 and 2, Rampage, Joust, Bubbles, I mean, some pretty classic games. So when I got it, I started looking at it, and I noticed that it's made by Big Games. Never heard of them. And I saw this little thing in here. I'm like, what is this? It almost looks like some sort of a game card. But for the life of me, I could not get it out of there. Like, it's got little tabs on it. It almost looks like, it says Arcade Classic Series 1. So I'm thinking what they originally intended for this was to be a cabinet that you can buy these cards for and plug them in and put different games into it. But like I said, I could not get this out. I didn't want to break it and damage the cabinet, so I stopped trying. I was prying at it with screwdrivers, and it sounded like the plastic was going to break. But anyways, so yeah, it has those games on it, and they all play really, really well. And I'm trying to get the glare of the light off the screen here, but yeah, I mean, the games aren't true arcade ports. They are scaled back graphically a little bit, but they sound really well. But, you know, to be able to play Robotron, I mean, this game plays really, really well. As I'm dying because I'm playing with one hand, but I just wanted to show it. But yeah, like an arcade 1-up, push the buttons, you can get back to the main menu. You go down, it shows you the, you hold down on the joystick, it shows you, you know, how to play the games. Which it also shows you up here on the marquee above, or on the, I guess, I don't know what you would call this, a bezel or what, but it shows you the controls and the button layout of all the games that are on it, which is cool when you're playing it. If you forget what does something, because like on a game like Defender, you know, all 6 buttons mean something. So it's easy to play the game, because a lot of these games are kind of before my time, so I never really played much of them, so I didn't really know how to play them. But I did notice that a lot of the games on here, once I sold my original Mortal Kombat and got a Mortal Kombat Legacy, there was a lot of these games are familiar, of course. Defender, Rampage, Tapper, Joust, Wizard of War, Bubbles, and all those games are on there. But the ones that are keeping this cabinet here are Robotron and Sinistar, especially Robotron. It's such a fun game. I never really played much of it, but now I play it all the time. I mean, I always find myself coming to this cabinet. And these things are made heavier. I mean, that's some heavy grade material with this thing. I bet you this cabinet weighs 100, 120 pounds, and you can see it standing up next to the Mortal Kombat Deluxe cabinet. It's slightly bigger. So these things are pretty big. In the screen, it's a CRT monitor. It's slanted back slightly. And the one knock about it is the joystick and the buttons are very, very cheap quality, but they all respond well. All the games play well, the joysticks respond, the buttons work. I mean, it's playable. And another cool thing you can do with this, since it is a CRT, you can hook an older console up to it, because it has all the AV ports on it. So when I bought it, that was one of the big draws. I'm like, oh, well, I can hook this thing up. I thought that you could hook the console up to the TV and play the games through the joystick and the buttons, which isn't the case. You still have to use the controller. But I'm starting to tinker with this thing, and I had an old multi-system that you could play Nintendo and Sega, Genesis and Super Nintendo games on. So I cut a controller apart. I'm trying to figure out a way to hardwire the controller into the control deck and then plug it into the console, which is then plugged into the TV, to see if you can, like the joystick and the buttons will trigger the controls. I have not been able to find a way to do it. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's guys out there that would be able to do it in their sleep, but you know, I'm not one of them. I'm just trying to figure it out because I think it would be super cool to be able to play all my old console games on here. But then again, I ended up buying the Intech gaming deck, and now I can play my NES collection on with my Gen 1 Mortal Kombat. I ended up putting that on. But I wanted to show you guys these things because I don't know if anybody ever has them. I mean, this is pretty cool. It really is. I mean, if they never release a Robotron anywhere, you can find these things. Look them up online. I mean, they go for cheap, and they're heavy duty. I mean, these are heavy cabinets. Yeah, they come with a CRT, so you may or may not like that. I mean, these are the only 2 CRT monitors that I have in my arcade, and they're kind of cool. So they kind of seem like they bring you back a little bit. The only bad thing is the track mode on this thing doesn't play sound, and maybe there's a way to get in there and change that, but the Konami one does. But yeah, I like it. I mean, for being dirt cheap, paying $100 for it, and I can play Robotron and Satan's Hollow and Sinistar, which I can't play on any one of these other cabinets that are in here. Yeah, it's worth it. So now we'll take a look at the Konami. Again, big electronics, big games, whatever they are. CRT monitor. Here. I mean, these are the games that are on it. Hyper Sports, which I really don't know about. Time Pilot 84, which is really fun. Shaolin Roads. Jungler, don't know too much about it. Super Basketball, meh. But the big ones, Castlevania, Blades of Steel, Frogger, and one of my favorite arcade games of all time, Contra. And all the games play extremely well. I mean, it's got, you know, buttons you hold in. You can toggle the volume, set your lives, set your bonuses, the difficulty level on all the games. But yeah, I mean, just go into Contra, just look at it a little bit. Yeah, I mean, there it is. This was my introduction to Contra in the arcade. Like, I knew that it existed, but never played it. So this is the first time I had ever played it. Was on this thing. As I'm trying to play with one hand, but just like an arcade 1-up, hold a couple buttons down. Yeah, you can increase the volume, go back to the main menu. Yeah, and there's switches on the side here. I think it increases the brightness of the screen. And there's something else, I don't know what it does. But the game lineup on this is a lot better than the Midway Legacy over there. Yeah, Castlevania, again, another one. I didn't know this was an arcade game. I only knew this on the NES. But how fun is this? Play Castlevania in an arcade. That's awesome. I mean, I found this thing on Facebook. This was the second one after I got that Midway multicade over there for $100. I had no idea about these things, so I started looking them up, and these were the only two that were made in the series. And I saw this one, I was like, I gotta find it. So I set out and made it a mission to find this thing. And I got a heck of a deal on it. I think I talked the guy down on Facebook to $150. The only bad thing is missing a front panel. But so what? You know, I plan on putting a black panel on it, and then maybe getting some sort of Konami logos, or maybe I'll get logos of all the games that are on it, some graphics. I mean, the speaker here is in the front. The sound is really good. Like, it's kind of, as you can see, the monitor and the screen has more of a slant on it. Kind of reminds me of like the old Pac-Man cabinets. Yeah, this one is really, really good. And again, 3/4 scale. I guess you can call it 3/4 scale. You can see it next to a Gen 1 Pac-Man. You know, so they're a little bulkier, like I said, made of a little heavier material, and with the CRT monitor, they are bulkier than an arcade 1-up. But this one I would highly, highly recommend if you can find it and get a decent price for it. This thing is extremely fun. The game lineup on it is pretty top notch. Like I said, I mean, Super Basketball and Hyper Sports, which Hyper Sports, kind of like a track and field style game, which never really was my thing. But I mean, other people might think it is. I don't know. Gyros, Jungler, another one. I mean, it's okay. Scramble, some sort of shooting, space shooter game. But yeah, like I said, my favorite one's on here. This Time Pilot 84, which I'd never even heard of until I got this one. That one's really fun. I find myself getting addicted to that. Of course, who doesn't love Blades of Steel? Another game, like Castlevania, I never knew was an arcade game. I always associated Blades of Steel with NES, because NES, you know, that was one of the 8 games I owned as a kid was Blades of Steel, so I played the crap out of it. And it wasn't until till somewhat recently that I learned that it was an arcade game. So yeah, Blades of Steel, Castlevania, Contra, Frogger, for me, are pretty much and Time Pilot 84 are those are the games I play all the time. But yeah, I mean, Green Beret is pretty fun. Never played it. Don't really know anything about it, but yeah, so this has what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games on it. Which just like the Midway. But yeah, again, not to keep bragging about it, but I would, if you have room in your arcade and you can find one of these things, I mean, this is a fantastic way to play some of these games. Yeah, especially Contra. Contra's the one for me that sold it. I mean, I probably still would have bought it if it didn't have Contra on it, but the fact that it does, yeah. And now, again, yeah, I think the NES version is the better version, but it is still extremely fun to run around and play. So, alright guys, that's it for this video. I just figured, I don't know if anybody out in the home arcade community has these things. I mean, I've never seen, of all the arcade room tours I've watched, I've never seen anybody with one of these cabinets, and I figured maybe you'd be interested about them. But again, you know, like the Midway, the buttons, the joysticks, the control deck is exactly the same. I mean, it's pretty chintzy. I mean, you know, you can kind of hear it. I mean, it reacts well. It's just the quality is extremely trash. But again, all the buttons respond. Everything plays well. So no really complaints there. The thing sounds good. The monitor is holding up. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do if they ever go out, but we'll cross that bridge whenever we get to it. But yeah, guys. All right. Thanks for checking this out. Konami all the way. You can find it. I would highly recommend it. It's fun. You could probably get it for a couple $100. It's totally worth it. All right, guys. Thanks.